On the morning of April 23, 2025, in Bangalore's upscale Marathahalli neighborhood, 28-year-old Dr. Krithika Reddy woke up to a sharp, throbbing pain. The discomfort radiated from the IV needle inserted into her hand. Krithika had been battling multiple health conditions for some time: chronic gastrointestinal issues, low blood pressure, hypoglycemia, and persistent digestive problems. She was already undergoing treatment for all of these ailments. When her father noticed his daughter walking with a noticeable limp and moving awkwardly, he immediately urged her to remove the IV needle. However, her husband, Dr. Mahendra Reddy, who was a practicing physician, had specifically instructed her to keep it in place. That evening, around 9:30 p.m., Mahendra arrived at Krithika's parents' home. He carefully examined her condition and administered another IV injection. To anyone watching, the love between them seemed undeniable. Mahendra appeared unable to stand seeing Krithika in pain. Despite his demanding schedule at the hospital, he always made time to care for her. The following morning, April 24th, Krithika's mother walked into her daughter's bedroom carrying a cup of coffee. She tried to wake her daughter, but something was terribly wrong. Krithika's body was cold to the touch. There was no response whatsoever, not even the slightest movement. Panic set in immediately. Krithika's mother let out a piercing scream that echoed through the house. Mahendra, who had been sleeping in an adjacent room, rushed in to find out what was happening. When he examined his wife, there was still no sign of life. Without wasting a second, they lifted Krithika and rushed her to the nearest hospital. The doctors delivered devastating news. She was already dead. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Nobody could process what they were hearing. It felt like a nightmare that would surely end soon. Grief swept through the family like a tidal wave. Mahendra's tears flowed endlessly. He blamed himself repeatedly, convinced that he had failed to save his wife. Because Krithika had died so young and without any obvious explanation, the attending physicians recommended that the family authorize a post-mortem examination. Since Krithika had spent her final hours surrounded by loved ones and her health had deteriorated so rapidly, most family members assumed it was a natural death caused by her existing medical conditions. They began pushing back against the idea of an autopsy. But one person refused to accept this conclusion. This individual had a strong gut feeling that something wasn't right. Going against the wishes of everyone else in the household, this person demanded that a post-mortem be conducted. The truth that emerged from that decision was something the family could never have imagined, not even in their worst nightmares. It was so bizarre and disturbing that even seasoned medical professionals with decades of experience had never encountered anything like it. Dr. Krithika Reddy worked as a dermatologist at Victoria Hospital in Bangalore. From childhood, she had dreamed of becoming a doctor, and through sheer determination and hard work, she made that dream a reality. After establishing herself in the medical field, she aspired to open her own clinic. Eventually, she hoped to expand that clinic into a full-fledged hospital. This was her greatest ambition. Meanwhile, Dr. Mahendra Reddy was employed as a surgeon at Egot Medical Institute in Bangalore. Both Egot Medical Institute and Victoria Hospital operated under the same healthcare network. This professional overlap meant that doctors from both institutions frequently crossed paths at medical conferences, seminars, and administrative meetings. It was through these professional gatherings that Mahendra and Krithika first met. They exchanged pleasantries and engaged in casual conversation, but their relationship never evolved beyond a basic professional acquaintance. Krithika also had an older sister named Nikita, who worked as a radiologist. Nikita specialized in diagnosing diseases through CT scans, MRIs, X-rays, and other imaging technologies. Being the elder sibling, Nikita was already married and living with her husband in her own home. Around this time, Krithika had reached what her family considered an appropriate age for marriage. According to accounts related to this case, both families expressed mutual interest in the union, though there was no romantic connection between Mahendra and Krithika beforehand. Their relationship prior to marriage was strictly professional, nothing more. With full approval from both families, the arranged marriage was celebrated in grand style. The wedding reportedly cost upward of 25 million rupees. It's worth noting a pattern commonly observed in the medical community. When one spouse is a doctor, the other often is too. Many physicians prefer selecting life partners from within their profession, believing it leads to greater understanding and fewer conflicts down the road. The demanding nature of medical work, long hours, emergency calls, and high stress can strain relationships with partners who don't fully grasp these pressures. By marrying someone in the same field, many doctors believe they're setting themselves up for a more compatible partnership. This isn't universal, of course, but the trend is well documented. Mahendra and Krithika's union fit this pattern perfectly. Following their lavish wedding, Both families expected the newlyweds to build a happy, prosperous life together. But by April 2025, Dr. Krithika Reddy's health began deteriorating noticeably. Even before the marriage, she had struggled with gastric and metabolic disorders. After the wedding, these issues resurfaced with a vengeance. She would vomit after eating even small amounts of food. All her previous symptoms came roaring back. Throughout these difficult times, Mahendra appeared to be a devoted husband. Since he was a physician himself, he personally managed her treatment. Even when he was on duty at the hospital, he would check on her condition through phone calls and text messages. Whenever Krithika felt weak or uncomfortable, he reassured her that the medications were working and that she would recover soon. Watching Mahendra care so lovingly for their younger daughter, the Reddy family felt genuinely blessed. They believed Krithika had found a kind, responsible partner. Because of this, they treated Mahendra like their own son and placed complete trust in him. As Krithika's health gradually improved, she resumed seeing patients. Mahendra supported her every step of the way, helping manage her medications, reduce her stress, and handle her workload. Life was finally returning to normal. Their first wedding anniversary was just a month away, and both were excited to celebrate. In preparation, they were also laying the groundwork for a new business venture together. They had set May 4th, 2025 as the grand opening date for their new clinic, Skin and Scalp. This clinic was a labor of love from Krithika's father, Mahendra Reddy, who had built it specifically for his daughter and son-in-law. Everyone believed this clinic would mark the beginning of a bright future for the couple. But before they could open the doors to this new chapter, life was about to take a devastating turn, one that would reduce all their hopes and dreams to ashes. When doctors recommended an autopsy, most family members resisted. They argued that their daughter was gone and nothing would bring her back. What was the point of subjecting her body to further examination? Krithika's father and husband, along with several other relatives, firmly opposed the idea. They felt it was unnecessary to endure such a painful process during an already heartbreaking time. Mahendra announced plans to take Krithika's body to their ancestral village for final rites. But Nikita, Krithika's older sister, saw things differently. As a medical professional herself, Nikita understood the importance of determining an accurate cause of death. More importantly, something about the entire situation didn't sit right with her. Even though Krithika had health issues, she wasn't so critically ill that she would suddenly die overnight without warning. Nikita eventually convinced her father to support the post-mortem. Hospital staff also urged an investigation. Nikita spoke with the attending physicians, arranged for a medical legal case report to be filed, and sent it to the police. This meant a formal investigation would now proceed. Officers from the Marathahali police station arrived at the hospital. They filed an unnatural death report, a standard procedure for deaths that appear suspicious or unexplained. Once this was done, the post-mortem became mandatory regardless of anyone's objections. The autopsy was performed, but initially no definitive cause of death was identified. Everything pointed toward natural causes. Given Krithika's documented history of health problems, everyone assumed her conditions had simply overwhelmed her system. Based on these preliminary findings, the body was released to the family. They completed Krithika's final rites, and over time, everyone, including Mahendra and Krithika's parents, slowly began the painful process of moving forward. But one crucial piece of evidence remained outstanding: the viscera report. For those unfamiliar with forensic procedures, a viscera report involves a detailed laboratory analysis of internal organs. It can reveal whether the organ sustained any damage, whether that damage was inflicted intentionally, and whether any internal injuries could have caused death. Viscera reports typically take considerable time to complete, often a month or longer. If there's evidence suggesting foul play, the process might be expedited to 3 or 4 weeks. Otherwise, delays are common. In this case, everything seemed straightforward. Krithika's death appeared linked to her chronic health conditions, possibly triggered by a severe gastric episode. Even her family wasn't particularly anxious about the viscera results. Weeks turned into months. 5 to 6 months passed without any updates. Then came October 13, 2025. On that day, the hospital finally received the viscera report, nearly 6 months after Krithika's death. The moment the results were reviewed, a shocking truth emerged, exposing a hidden reality behind Krithika's demise. The findings were immediately shared with Nikita. The report identified the presence of an anesthetic drug, the type used exclusively in operating rooms. This medication is administered to patients before surgery to numb specific areas and induce unconsciousness. It must be given in precisely controlled doses. If the dosage is too high, the patient can slip into a permanent sleep from which they'll never wake. This exact drug was detected in Krithika's tissue samples in dangerously elevated quantities. It was a clear overdose. This wasn't a natural death. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. Without hesitation, Nikita went straight to the police station. She declared that her sister's death was not natural. She had been killed. And the person responsible, she alleged, was none other than Krithika's own husband, Dr. Mahendra Reddy. The police wasted no time. Mahendra was arrested immediately. During interrogation, Mahendra initially recounted events exactly as they had occurred. But as investigators applied pressure and employed strategic questioning techniques, he began revealing hidden truths. In 2024, when Mahendra married Krithika, he appeared genuinely happy. The marriage was arranged, but he had agreed to it willingly. In the beginning, whenever Krithika fell ill, Mahendra cared for her attentively and lovingly. But Krithika's chronic gastric and metabolic issues, which predated the marriage, proved difficult to manage. Whenever these conditions flared up, she would vomit repeatedly after eating even small portions of food. At home, this was manageable. But when Mahendra took Krithika to social events and she became sick in public, his embarrassment was palpable. His face would flush with shame as other guests witnessed his wife's condition. Over time, Mahendra convinced himself that Krithika's family had deceived him by concealing the severity of her health problems before the wedding. A quiet resentment began festering in his heart. Eventually, he decided that he needed to remove Krithika from his life, permanently. Initially, Mahendra considered divorce, but the fear of property division and social stigma terrified him. He quickly abandoned that idea. Despite his growing hatred, Mahendra never let his true feelings show. He continued playing the role of devoted husband, caring for Krithika even as she pushed herself to see patients while unwell. Outwardly, he appeared supportive and loving. Inwardly, he was suffocating with rage. Another source of his anger was financial. Mahendra repeatedly asked Krithika's father for funding to open a hospital. But Mahendra Reddy insisted on starting small with the clinic he was building for his daughter. Krithika had a dream of running her own practice alongside her husband, treating patients together. Her father believed in incremental growth. He told Mahendra to first gain experience at the clinic, develop his skills, and prove himself. Bigger plans could come later. This wasn't what Mahendra wanted to hear. His frustrations intensified, his hatred deepened. He began waiting for the perfect opportunity to end Krithika's life, carefully and precisely. That opportunity arrived on April 21, 2025. Mahendra obtained the powerful anesthetic drug by creating falsified medical documents. As a surgeon with family connections to medical supply businesses, including a pharmacy and a surgical equipment distributorship, accessing such materials wasn't particularly difficult for him. Typically, these controlled substances require special authorization and can only be used within hospital settings. But Mahendra operated within that system. He knew how to navigate it. His approach was methodical. Rather than administering a lethal dose immediately, which would have raised immediate suspicion, he gave Krithika small, incremental doses through her IV cannula. This way, observers would simply think her health was deteriorating naturally, eventually leading to her death. On the night of April 23rd, he administered the fatal overdose. Krithika trusted her husband completely. She never questioned the injections. She never suspected a thing. On October 14, 2025, police arrested Mahendra Reddy. The following day, they publicly disclosed the full details of the case. The investigation revealed three primary motives behind the murder. First, Mahendra claimed he felt cheated. He alleged that Krithika and her family had hidden the true extent of her health problems before the wedding. He questioned why he wasn't informed about her chronic conditions beforehand. Second, financial disputes played a significant role. Mahendra wanted Krithika's father to fund his hospital ambitions, but Mahendra Reddy refused to rush the process. Third, when investigators examined Mahendra's phone, they discovered he maintained close relationships with multiple women. Records showed intimate conversations with approximately 6 female friends through calls and messages. Furthermore, during his postgraduate studies in Mumbai, Mahendra had been involved in a romantic relationship with another woman. His parents were apparently aware of this affair, but never disclosed it to Krithika's family before the wedding. Even after marrying Krithika, Mahendra continued communicating with this other woman. This case stands as a chilling reminder that trust can be the most dangerous weapon of all. Dr. Krithika Reddy placed her life in the hands of her husband, a man sworn to do no harm. Instead, he used his medical knowledge and her faith in him to commit the ultimate betrayal. Thanks to the persistence of Nikita Reddy, who refused to accept convenient explanations and demanded answers, justice was eventually served. Without her determination, this murder might have remained hidden forever, disguised as a tragic but natural death. The case has sent shockwaves through the medical community and raised serious questions about oversight of controlled substances and the screening of professionals with access to lethal medications.